Hi, welcome to my show. I am Dr. Felice Gersh, your friendly, integrative gynecologist and women's health specialist. And that's how I've always introduced myself, but now I have another label to put on myself. I am now going to call myself Disruptive, and I'll give you a little bit of background on that. About 2 weeks ago, I had a very interesting conversation while I was having high tea with a very wonderful and very successful British businessman. We talked about what it means to be sort of innovative and creative in this world. And the word that was used was disruptive in a very, very positive sense, that you don't just accept the status quo, that you question everything. And also you create your own approach based on, of course, science or evidence. You're not just making things up out of clear, thin air, but based on that, I am now calling myself disruptive because not only do I question everything about conventional medicine, about the conventional approach to healthcare, and pretty much everything. I also am now questioning even other functional medicine doctors and integrative doctors. Because what could be more disruptive than to question a green smoothie? So here I am. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why you should think twice before you make and consume your next green smoothie. So you have to understand my philosophy as an integrative and functional medicine doctor before you can really appreciate how I could come to say negative things about such, an icon of health as a green smoothie. Well, it turns out that my philosophy is really so simple. It's recognizing that we as humans are very incapable of managing on a microscopic and cellular level the complexity that is a human being. And therefore, the best that we can hope for is to try to give every human, every body, the tools that it needs, the sustenance, the environment, the love, the care, and so on, to allow the body to actually manage itself. So I no longer try to micromanage humans. What I do is try to nurture them and give them, like I said, the basic foundations that their bodies can use, the tools, the building blocks to build a healthy body and maintain and achieve optimum health. So recognizing that nature always knows best. There is nothing that we as humans can do that we can outsmart nature. So I look at the body and I say, okay, what is nature really intending for us? For example, as you know, I love talking about the circadian rhythm. We are programmed in our genes to get up at a certain time, to go to sleep. Our hormones come out at certain times. We are genetically programmed to be functioning according to the rotation, the 24-hour rotation of planet Earth. Our digestive systems, likewise, are programmed to function in a certain way. So if we think we're so clever and smart that we can outsmart Mother Nature, we need to think again. So where does this all lead to? And what are we talking about here with a green smoothie? It starts with foundational things as, what is the purpose of having a mouth? Okay. And what is the digestive system trying to accomplish? And why do we even eat in the first place? A mouth is the first stop on the digestive system's tract. A mouth is not optional. A mouth is there for a purpose. So what happens in the mouth and why does it matter? And how does that relate to a green smoothie anyway? Well, food is supposed to enter into our mouth. Only infants are designed to drink their food. So an adult, even past an infancy, we put the food in our mouth and we chew it. There's a reason why we have teeth. And in fact, it's a known fact that when people lose their teeth, for whatever reason, if they don't have teeth in their mouth, their health suffers greatly because the ability to properly process food is really foundationally altered when you cannot chew. So if you have teeth, please use them. They're there for a good purpose. So you put the food in your mouth. And as you probably know, you're supposed to chew quite a lot. Now, if you can swallow something without choking, why do you need to chew it? Because It's a process of mixing your food with the saliva in your mouth. The saliva contains many things. We always knew it contained digestive enzymes. So that's very important. It helps to break down. It's the first step in breaking down food. But it's even more than that. The saliva contains bacteria. We now know the mouth has a very special microbiome, the genetic material, the bacteria that work together with us in a symbiotic way to help us to be healthy. For example, there are certain enzymes that exist in bacteria that reside in our mouth that we cannot make. We cannot make those enzymes. So if we simply drink our food, like we drink our green smoothie, bypassing the mouth, we do not get the action of those enzymes. And those enzymes are critical for breaking down a lot of the food items, for example, the nitrates. We're talking about a green smoothie, so hopefully there would be something green in it, right? Some kind of lettuce or chard or spinach or kale, some kind of green leafy vegetable. Those are the most wonderful vegetables for nitrates, but you're not going to get the benefits if you do not mix them with your saliva, which has the bacteria along with the digestive enzymes, because it's the bacteria that has certain types of enzymes called reductases that change the nitrates into nitrites. And then in the stomach, they can then be turned into nitric oxide, which is a critical antioxidant redox signaling agent. It actually helps with preventing oxidative stress, inflammation in our bodies. In addition, not just in the stomach, but further down in the digestive tract, it can also be the nitrates, or then from the mouth turned into nitrites and then turned into nitric oxide. But without that first step involving the mouth, we do have some problems. It's not going to be the same. In addition, the mouth communicates, everything communicates in some fashion with our brain. It turns out that when we chew, it's the alert system to the brain. The brain says, oh, we're eating. And in turn, it alerts the stomach to produce stomach acid and the pancreas to put out its digestive enzymes. It alerts the gallbladder, hey, we're going to probably need you to contract pretty soon, and put out your bile and your cholesterol. But if you simply drink the food right through a straw or just drink it, you will not communicate with your brain. And that food, that liquid, which has all those nutrients in it, is going to end up right in the middle of your stomach, and your brain is going to be completely unprepared. And therefore, your stomach will be unprepared. So you won't have the proper stomach acid produced. You won't have the enzymes coming out of the pancreas and so forth. So that food is not going to be properly digested. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who is an Ayurvedic practitioner, which I am not, qualified as. I know some basic things, but I'm not certainly an Ayurvedic practitioner. But according to their philosophy, a green smoothie would be basically a no-no. And why is that? It's too cold. So remember, when you put food in your mouth that is cold, you're chewing it, it's staying in your mouth, it's going to heat up. It's not going to be at the same temperature. It's not going to go right into your stomach really cold. So his suggestion was, if you insist on having a smoothie, please let it go to room temperature and add some hot water even, so it will not be so cold when it lands in your stomach. And don't have them more than a couple of times a week, please. The other thing that the Ayurvedic practitioners suggested is make them very simple. Maybe just put in 2 ingredients, and for the fat, use coconut oil. So I'm going to recognize that no matter what I say, a bunch of you are still going to want to have your green smoothies. So I'm going to give you some suggestions, and these are some for how to make it more digestible for your body. So heat it up. So it's almost a little bit more like soup, actually, right? So soup is actually better than a cold green smoothie. And make it simple, and don't put too many things in it. It makes it harder to digest. In addition, other bad things about green smoothies, when you put it through the processing, whether it's a Vitamix, a blender, or a NutriBullet, you really alter the soluble fiber to the point that it is no longer of the proper consistency. You're really altering the structure. Now, soluble fiber actually is an amazing thing. Have you ever taken like chia seeds and then had it in some moisture and then it turned into this sort of a mucousy kind of a gel? Well, that is what happens in us when we have soluble fiber, which is really important for our health. And it also helps to feed our own gut bacteria. So that soluble fiber is altered in such a way that it will not produce that really healthful and very necessary gel-like substance within us, in our intestinal tract, the way it should, because its structure is so destroyed. It is truly destroyed. Another thing about smoothies, there's no definition of a smoothie. So, for example, I looked this up. In England, last year, something like 150, the equivalent of $150 million was spent on commercially made smoothies. Most of those smoothies were heavily fruit juice. So there's no real definition of a green smoothie. So I'm going to tell you, if you're going to have one, how to make it so that it's the healthiest it can be. So many smoothies are very, very filled with fruit. Now, I love fruit, and fruit is good for you, but you don't want to overwhelm your body with fruit. And in fact, when you have a very fruity kind of a smoothie, and it's very processed. So this is, remember, it's like a processing of your food, including the vegetables. So say you put in some vegetable, some green leafy, and you have a lot of fruit. The vegetable, because it's broken down by the processor, the food processor, or the blender, or the Vitamix, or the NutriBullet, it's so processed that when it goes through the digestive system, it's going to enter your bloodstream from the intestinal tract as sugar, and it's going to enter really fast. In fact, it will overload the liver. It's going to be like a gigantic sugar load going right to your liver, and the liver can't handle it, can't process it that quickly. So it's going to turn into fat in the liver, which is so terrible, which is the first step in developing metabolic syndrome, which we now know is really an epidemic at this time in the world, actually, not just in our country here, but in the world. So if you have healthy foods, but you process them and then you drink them even and quickly, which is another thing I'll touch on, what that does is it overloads your liver with this pile of sugar, which it can't handle. Once again, you end up with fatty liver, and you're going to have this giant surge of insulin as well from the pancreas. And then what will happen is in an hour or so, you're going to get reactive hypoglycemia. Your blood sugar will plummet. And then you're going to be hungry and feel kind of lightheaded. You're not going to feel well, and you're going to want to go eat something, hopefully not a donut, but that will happen to you. The other thing that a lot of people do with their green smoothies is they sip them for hours. Now, most people put into their smoothie quite a bit of fruit, as I mentioned. The typical green smoothie, not the one that's coming from the juice store, which can be 100% sugar. If we just backtrack a minute on the smoothies that come out of the fruit places where they have the fruit juices, they're foundationally fruit juice without any of the fiber. They're not the whole fruit. They're just the juiced fruit, which is no difference in terms of its sugar load than drinking a soda. It's a heavy sugar load. In fact, some of them are higher. I actually looked this up. There are some commercial smoothies that are predominantly fruit juice that have the equivalent of almost 45 teaspoons of sugar in one serving. I kid you not. I looked it up. It was like 43 teaspoons of sugar in one standard size smoothie from this particular company. I figure I won't mention the name, but these are tons of fruit juice, and then they often put in other sugary things, sometimes sherbet, sometimes sweetened yogurts, and so on. So you're really getting an enormous glucose load, and often with high fructose. And it's not a good thing for you. It's not good for your liver. It's not good for anything. So it's very inflammatory to have such a gigantic sugar load. The other thing with smoothies, as I mentioned, is people often drink them very quickly Or the other side, they drink them very slowly. For the people who drink them very quickly, it overwhelms their digestive system, because think about what you put in a smoothie. If you took all of those fruits and vegetables, and the average smoothie, not counting the ones that are all fruit from these shops, but they usually people put in 60% fruit to 40% greens. So it's still a preponderance of fruit. And when they put it together, there's a lot of fruit and a fair amount of greens, but in an amount that you could never eat that quickly. If you took all the foods that go into that smoothie and you put them on a plate, and then you had to eat them by cutting them and biting them and chewing them and swallowing them, it would take you quite a bit of time. You could never consume it so quickly like you can with a green smoothie. So with some people, they drink it really fast. So it just flows into their stomach. It fills up their stomach really fast because, like they're in a rush. They like it for breakfast. So they can do it really fast. They just throw everything into their vitamins. They make this smoothie really fast. It's all laid out the night before, and then they just chug it, just get it down fast. They figure, I'm getting my vitamins, I'm getting my minerals, I'm getting all of my nutrients, but the body can't handle it that fast. It's way overload. It's just overload, and it bogs down the digestive tract, and it really creates a lot of sludge. It's just not the way we were designed to eat, to put such a gigantic load in at once. That's one group, the people who just chug it down really fast and overwhelm our digestive system. The other group, they sip it all morning, like maybe over hours. And what they're not realizing is that in the juice, there's a lot of acid. Like, just think of vitamin C. What the heck is vitamin C? It's ascorbic acid. And pineapple juice has a lot of acid and enzymes. Now, these are wonderful taken in the context of the whole fruit. But when you take it out and you put it in this beverage and then you sip it like over a long period of time, you're really destroying the enamel on your teeth. So be aware, this stuff is toxic for your teeth. You may have heard of bottle mouth syndrome for babies, where babies are given a bottle of fruit juice and then they just drink it. Like, this is terrible, never do this, it's like a no-no. They put the bottle with the baby in the crib and the baby just drinks it on and off all night long, or for over a few hours if it's a daytime nap. That is terrible. Then the baby's teeth, the new teeth that are coming in, they rot from the exposure to all this acid. So, but you can do that to yourself by doing essentially the same thing. You'll create bottle mouth. You want that? Don't do it. So if you're going to have a green smoothie, don't drink it over hours. In addition, by doing that, you're going to negate all the benefits of fasting and timed eating, which, we'll talk about again. We touched on that before, but you don't want to be eating all day long. Your body gets lazy and will not regenerate, will not rejuvenate if you constantly are feeding. So that's like the opposite of what we used to say. We do not want to eat all day long. So you want to put the smoothie, if you're going to insist on having a smoothie, so this is what you're going to do, okay? You're going to make it all vegetable. Forget the fruit. If you are desperate for some sweetener because you think your smoothie is too bitter and you just won't put it on the plate and just eat it like real food, and you have to drink it for some reason, then this is what you should do. Make it all vegetables and put in a little bit of organic honey. Make sure it's high quality. There's a lot of really junky honeys on the market. Or some real organic natural maple syrup, just a little bit. Or if you have coconut, you can put like a little bit of coconut flakes in it, or put in, some coconut milk or almond milk. Those are hopefully, for the almond milk, homemade, but those are some things you can do to add a little natural sweetener. Do not add fruit. I know you want to, but if you absolutely insist, add just a very few berries, because you don't really want to make this into a drink of sugar. So, and only do maybe 2 types of greens so that it's easier for your body to digest. Maybe just some spinach and maybe just some arugula or some kale. I just want to mention, there are some people in our population that have problems with handling oxalates. So oxalates are found in things like spinach, for example. So if you're one of those people and you have trouble with oxalates and you get kidney stones, like calcium oxalate stones, then you do not want to have a green smoothie, because by doing that, you're creating such a load of oxalate coming in that it can really overwhelm your system. In any case, it'll overwhelm your system, but especially if you have oxalate, metabolism problems, and then you'll increase your risk of getting kidney stones. So if you have a problem with kidney stones, you really should extra think twice and probably not ever do green smoothies if you have a problem with kidney stones, especially if you don't know what type they were. So if you insist on having a green smoothie, try to make it chunkier. And when you eat it, don't eat it by itself because you want your brain to know you're eating. So before you have your green smoothie, have a handful of nuts and eat them slowly. So your brain will say, okay, food is coming. I'm going to prepare my stomach with stomach acid, digestive enzymes from the pancreas, and so on. So eat something like nuts first. Don't put the nuts in your smoothie. Eat them separately first, like a smoothie appetizer. Then when you have your smoothie, put it in your mouth and hold it there. Now, that doesn't sound like much fun, but you know what? If you're going to do it, then you got to do it because otherwise you're not going to mix it with your saliva and your microbiome of your mouth. So put the smoothie in your mouth and pretend that you're chewing it and mix it with your saliva and consume it slowly. Do not just chug it down. You have to consume it about the same pace as if it were on the plate, all those vegetables on the plate, and you're eating them and chewing them. You should do it at the same pace. Remember what I said? We cannot outsmart nature. Nature did not expect you to have a Vitamix. Nature did not think you would do that. So nature expects you to take the food and put it in your mouth and chew it and chew it and chew it and then swallow it. So even though you already pre-did it by putting it in the Vitamix or whatever, put it in your mouth and hold it there, mix it with the saliva. But remember, whatever soluble fibers you have in your smoothie are not going to give you the same benefit because you have altered their very foundational structure by turning it into a smoothie. So if you're going to try to maybe make it thicker, try not to make it turn into pure liquid so that you don't destroy all of the structure. And better yet, stop eating on the run. Sit down and have a real meal. Eat your vegetables. Eat your 5 to 10 cups of vegetables a day, starting with breakfast, but do it in a way that's sociable and pleasant. Sit down with your food on the plate. Sit down, relax, and eat it, and enjoy it, and chew it, and swallow it, and get all the wonderful benefits from it. So that's my message for today. Thank you so much for joining me on my show. I'll be back again. We'll put it up on Zubia. We'll let you know when I'll be back, and we'll talk about something else because you can be sure I will be disruptive again. And have a good night. Take care.